Hey everybody, welcome to another video from the Handy Life. We are out on the back patio doing a job out here. It's been about 3 months since my last project, so I've definitely been itching to get to something new. And the new thing is going to be a flagstone job on the back patio. Should be a fun project. It's not something I've done before. I watched a couple of YouTube videos like you guys are watching me here, and I think I have the hang of it. So here's the project area. Here's my pad that I was talking about, my existing slab that I have in the back. There's the back door. There's an overhang with a little patio cover here on the back. So this is what we're going to overlay with the flagstone. This is the flagstone that we're going to use. It's an entire pallet that I had to wheelbarrow into the backyard. So that was a part of today's effort just to get it back here. Was no small feat. This pallet was about 3,800 pounds of rock, and I think that'll be enough to do the whole patio. I hope I have some leftovers so I can do some stepping stones on the side of the house once I get rid of all this mud. What we're going to do is lay this flagstone on top of the patio. It's about 1.5 inches thick flagstone, plus or minus about 1/4 inch. Some pieces are a little thicker, some are thinner, which we'll have to deal with when we go to laying it. But the first thing I got to do, you can see these pillars that are coming down and anchored to the slab. I think they're anchored. We'll see. I think that's what that metal strap is down there. There should be some anchor bolts below that going down into the slab. But the reason I need to do something with those is once I put the overlay job, it'll be higher than this little 1 inch lift on this post base. So therefore the flagstone will come up to probably about here, and this will be a little pocket where water can get into, and it will rot out this piece of wood. So to start this, I've got to actually remove this, jack this whole overhang up just a little bit so I have some daylight, cut this, put a spacer block in, and then try to put this anchor contraption back if it's still in good condition. We'll see if it is or not. But that's what I'll be doing to start. What I'm going to use is that spacer is these 2-inch pavers that I have. They're a little big, so I'm going to take them to a wet saw and cut them to 6x6, which is the size of these pillar vertical pieces of wood coming down. So that should form a good pad. I'll have to bore a hole through that to be able to anchor it to the slab. But like I said, I don't know what's down there, so we'll see what I run into whenever I get into it. Okay, what you just saw me doing was disconnecting these post base straps from the wood itself. There are 4 nails on each side, so 8 per column, and I was just using a hammer and a pry bar to do that. I think that should be the only connection between the wood and the base, so it should be free to jack it up. What I'm going to use to jack is this 3-ton floor jack and some 2x4s that I'm going to place strategically on the awning up here at the hard point in the awning, just to make sure that I don't punch through and do any damage up there. The idea is to get this project done without damaging any existing stuff. So I'm taking my time, I'm being careful, and we'll see how that works out for me. Before I do the jacking though, I'm going to mark where my cut line is going to be on that wood at the base of the pillars. I want to do that before I jack it so I don't have to do any math or any kind of fanciness to figure out where that cut line is going to be based on the deflection, the movement after the jacking. So all I have is the 2-inch paver plus 1 inch of this post base, and that's where I'll mark my line. The post bases, these straps, they look to be in kind of bad condition, plus I did a bunch of prying on them, so I'm going to go ahead probably and replace those. I have these ones from Home Depot. They're 6x6 pillar size, so they should be the same. Also, you can see there's a whole board in the middle. That's where you're going to put your anchor bolt. That's where I think there will be an anchor bolt on the existing ones, but we'll see once we get into it. So I'll get to marking. I've made my jacking pole. It's just 2x4s that are screwed together, one in this direction, one in the perpendicular direction, just to increase the buckling resistance. Euler's buckling equation 101. There's a 2x6 pad up here at the top that's going to hopefully distribute the load on the awning. I'm going to cover that in this beach towel to hopefully reduce scratching of the awning up there, up at the top. I've got a 2x4 little foot at the bottom that's going to go right onto my jack when I jack it up. I know that my hard point is right near this seam, which makes sense because that's where this hardy board is attached to. So if I tried to jack it up over here, it would punch right through. There's nothing behind there. It's hollow. So I'm gonna put it right at that seam and hopefully catch that hard point, and then I'll be able to jack both columns up at the same time. Okay, I've got movement at the base of both columns. You can see this one here. It's separated, so like I had hoped, there's no other connections besides those 8 nails on each side. This one's a little bit harder to move, but it's still free as well. So I'm gonna get the Sawzall in those marked lines on there, shorten it up. Check it out, it's a floating column. So the base was actually this plate here that was sitting on top of the assembly here with the straps on the side. There was this nut and this square washer. So I was able to get that off, luckily, so I still have my anchor bolt. My idea is just to put a coupler on this, extend it the height that I need, and then just put a new nut. It looks to be a 1/2 inch threaded rod, so I need a 1/2 inch coupler, which I don't have. So we will pick up this piece of the job tomorrow. I think I'm going to leave it on the jack overnight, maybe just put some rocks underneath here, some of these Flagstone, just for, I don't know, good measure, just in case something happens with the jack. But that's where I'm going to leave it. All right, and for the last job of the night, it's getting kind of dark outside. I cut these pavers to 6x6 spacers. You can see it right here. Like I said, it's real dark. These are my spacers that are going to go below my post bases. I cut it using a DeWalt masonry blade, but more importantly, let's back up for all you Harbor Freight haters out there. This is a Chicago Electric tile saw. It retails for like $279. On sale, I think you can get it for closer to $200. That's what I got it for. And I've done countless tile jobs with this. I've done paver jobs with this, and it's worked flawlessly. I have no complaints. So I think, especially for a tile saw, it's more about the blade than it is about the tool. But backing up even further, I think with all projects, it's more about the craftsman than it is about the tool. You can spend boatloads of money on tools and get poor quality results. It just depends on the quality that person expects of himself or herself. So I wouldn't knock Harbor Freight. I definitely would steer clear of some of their stuff, but there's a lot of stuff there that you can get for very cheap. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, $200 for a tile saw that you can use over and over again, and if it breaks, get a 5-year extended warranty. If it breaks within 5 years, just go get a new one, brand new. They'll give you a brand new one if you have it under warranty. And even if you need to buy 3 or 4 of these, it takes 3 or 4 purchases of these tile saws before you get to the price of a DeWalt comparable tile saw. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. All right, I just made it to Home Depot and back. It's a new day. Let's keep going. I got the dog here to help me out. Thanks, Apollo. This is where we are. We've still got our floating column with our anchor bolt. I hit this with a wire brush to take off all the rust and chunks so that we'll be able to thread on a new coupler, which is this here, this is the coupler I just bought from Home Depot. It's just an elongated nut so I can screw one side onto the anchor and one side onto an extension threaded rod to make it all the way through the paver and through the post base. You can see I already bored a hole into the paver right here with this masonry bit. It wasn't quite big enough to fit the coupler, so I needed it to be a little bit bigger. That's why I bought a larger bit from Home Depot, so I'll be able to make this hole a little bit bigger to accommodate the full size of my coupler. And if you haven't thought about it yet, I've been thinking about it, like how am I going to put all this together underneath this pillar? I don't have a lot of play in the pillar. It's not like I can push it all the way out of the way, assemble this whole arrangement, and then stack the pillar on top. No, it's already there, so I need to figure out how to do this in sequence to fit it all in. If I put this in first, I don't really have room to get all this in and do my work, and especially don't have room to fit the post base over the anchor bolt and then put a nut with a washer on. So instead, I'm going to cut slots out of this paver. So I'll cut a slot here and a slot here with the wet saw. You'll see in a second why I'm going to do that. First, I'm going to put my base onto my anchor bolt. I'm going to attach the coupler, all that jazz. I'm going to get it in position, and then I'm going to put the nut and the washer on the top. I'm going to get it in the right position that I want vertically, and then I'm going to slide my slotted paver underneath. And that's, I think, the only way to do it. So that's what I'll be up to. So here's our post base. As you can see, I had to make some cuts into the base. The reason for that is my coupler, which the base needs to be able to slide up and down on, wouldn't fit. With these little cuts, it'll now fit, and we're all good. So there's plenty of room for it to move around. Because remember, I'm going to put the base in first and then slide it up the coupler and put the paver below that. Here is my coupler, and I have a piece of threaded rod already threaded into it with the washer on. And the threaded rod has a nut on the end. I've already put that on, and I've used thread lock to lock it in place so that I can use this nut in order to torque my extension piece into the coupler and torque it down properly at the end. Otherwise, the nut would just spin, and I wouldn't be getting any threads grabbing into the coupler body. So I think I have enough length on my extension piece. I cut it from a piece of threaded rod using a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a metal cutoff wheel on it. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to go ahead with threading into the coupler this nut, and I'm going to drive it all the way down initially, just so that I have clearance above this anchor bolt to be able to fit the coupler onto the anchor bolt. So let's do that. Drive it all the way down, because it's pretty tight in there once you have it all down. So real quick, we slide this plate on, drop it down, put the coupler on, turn that on, and at this point you're using the coupler and you're going to drive it all the way down. Just a few more turns. And you're not trying to kill it, because really this anchoring is only keeping the post from moving at the base laterally. It's not really holding it down. The weight of this overhang is enough to keep the post down. You just want to keep it from shifting laterally. And if I overdo it and potentially break my anchor bolt, boy, that would be a bad day. So now we're snug. Now this can come up, and I may already have enough room to slide my paver underneath. Looks like I do. So there's my paver underneath. And I move this into position. And now I just, with my wrench, torque down that nut on top of the coupler. All right, the pillars are down, the jack is gone. Everything's in contact and everything's looking good. I've tightened down the rest of the bolt, the anchor bolt that I could, any more tightness that I could get without overkill. And I've also driven 2-inch galvanized nails into these straps on the side, so everything is attached, nothing's gonna move, everything's in good shape. Like I said, one of my goals was not to do any damage to the existing house, and I didn't. The overhang is in perfect shape. You don't see any scratches or anything from where that support post was in contact with it, and we are good to go. So on to cleaning the concrete and prepping for the flagstone. Hope you enjoyed the video.